Kevin Durant is, in today's NBA, arguably one of the most polarizing yet elite players that we have ever seen play this game of basketball. At the end of the day, there's no player in NBA history that is going to be able to do what Kevin Durant has been able to accomplish. The man is pretty much 7 foot tall, has the handles of a guard, can shoot anywhere in the basketball court, very, very efficient, and at his peak at one time was arguably better than LeBron James. That's crazy that has made me to say. And it's crazy because, NBA history, it's just interesting because it's simply repeating itself in what we see now with this Oklahoma City Thunder team and their new big three making their mark in the NBA. We had that same thing with, as we all know, Harden, Russ, KD. Back in those days, as Kevin Durant grew and become a better player and end up winning an MVP for the Thunder and helping them make the NBA Finals and multiple conference finals appearances, to only then, as we all know, leave and go to Golden State. And really, from that transformation from going to Golden State to, ring chasing, getting those rings, it still really felt empty for Kevin Durant. There was no really changing the narrative still at the time because that's how the NBA thrives. It thrives off stories, and the main story still for Kevin Durant, and still sadly now to this day, is that he can go out and win multiple championships for the Warriors, but really in the end, will it matter? Because when you look at it, it was like they were the varsity team and they were playing against a bunch of freshmen. Easy in life to take the easy way out. But what makes a story remarkable and meaningful is when you actually take that hard road. I mean, looking at guys like Jason Tatum, for example, as much hate as he gets, he has been loyal to the Celtics, and even through all the failures and the doubts and the critics talking about him, they were still able to win an NBA championship. Looking at Giannis is another prime example. Even today, though he may or may not get traded, what he's already brought to the city of Milwaukee is something that many players would just dream of doing. Winning an NBA championship for them, being their best player for over a decade now, and bringing them back to relevancy. Yet LeBron James, yes, you can say LeBron is really the guy who dictated this new star movement and really changed that narrative around players. But everywhere LeBron has gone, he's won. And you would think the same could be said for a guy like Kevin Durant, who was at one point considered just as good, if not even possibly better, at his peak than LeBron James. After leaving Golden State and going to the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant really hasn't found success. And the reality is, trading for Kevin Durant now today is a risk. He's 36 years old, soon to be 37. And the man really doesn't have a lot of time left. He knows that. We know that. And, well, I'm sure these teams, for a matter of fact, know that. Yes, he's still a very productive basketball player. He's going to give you still 25 points per game, if not more, on any given night. But is it worth it? Because any team that are going to go out their way and trade for Kevin Durant is going to have to realize that you're going to be risking it all. For teams like the Houston Rockets, who have had a lot of interest and talks with Kevin Durant, yes, getting Kevin Durant will be a big plus for them. But at the same time, think of all of the assets that you will lose. For Phoenix, it's a win because you're going to get back your draft picks and you are going to set up yourself for a better situation. But for the Rockets, it's a risk. And the reality is as well with this Rockets team is that they are not fully there yet. Last year was kind of their first year making it into the playoffs and are still in that developmental phase as a young NBA team, and really don't know yet what their true potential is. And Jalen Green was finally starting to really find the pieces together. Şengün, as we all know, has established himself as really one of the best young upcoming centers in the NBA today. That time schedule really for Kevin Durant is it the same? And you throw out teams out there like the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's going to be really crazy as well for them to do a trade because, well, the money situation. That's why they had to trade away Karl-Anthony Towns, because they have now so many guys making over $100 million and having all this money to pay players. It's going to be really hard for them to really get that right balance. for a guy like Kevin Durant, they would really have to gut some of their key role players on that team to even acquire him. And yes, even with the San Antonio Spurs, my thing is a trade for that would be really good on paper. You're getting Kevin Durant, you can get him and Victor Wembanyama as a guy that Victor can learn a lot from and grow a lot from. It's good to have that veteran presence and a champion still at the end of the day in Kevin Durant in your locker room. But really, is it worth it? I mean, Devin Vassell just won Rookie of the Year, to mention that, but they have 2 first-round picks in this year's NBA draft that can really turn out to be something really good in this strong NBA draft class. Really big question the Spurs will have to ask themselves as well. Are they willing to part ways with Devin Vassell and see his growth and development? He already won Rookie of the Year, had a great rookie campaign. Are you willing to just trade that away already just for a guy who's going to be there in your team for maybe 1 or 2 years? And I get it. Victor Wembanyama, you got to take advantage of that rookie scale contract that he has right now while he's putting up the numbers and dominant play as he is. That's why they went out and they got Darren Fox as well in the team. So I get it that it could still happen, but really still, are you going to ask yourself, is it really worth it? Because when we look at the NBA and where it is today and how teams are built, it's through having a key role players and depth on your team. When we look at that Indiana Pacers team last year, they were a really good team, a surprising team. And yeah, some people can say, oh, injuries and this and that, and how they made it that far. But they've proven this year that they are truly an elite NBA team. Why? It's simply because they have chemistry, they have identity, and they have guys who know their roles on that team. And they can have a 10-man rotation, essentially, even deep into the playoffs, as we've seen. The same could be said with the Oklahoma City Thunder right now in the NBA Finals. Wiggins, Caruso, Wallace, all these guys are key role players on this team that is helping these guys in the position where they are today. And how all this really connects back with Kevin Durant, man. Kevin Durant is still kind of that player who was kind of more in that player empowerment movement and phase. This was during that time where players had control of the narrative. But now we are in the NBA today, man. With that Luka trade, what that really established in the pecking order today in the NBA is that the owners are really the ones now who are taking back control of these teams. That was a message, a clear message, that it doesn't matter really who you are. It's referring to that Luka trade. It doesn't matter what type of player you are, how good you are still a movable piece. So look, man, teams are not going to, I feel like now, go out of their ways to gut their roster, gut their future to go out and trade for these all-time players. Now, some teams still are going to do that, but are these teams really winning? When we look at the situation now with Kevin Durant on the Phoenix Suns, now granted, I'm really gonna keep it real. It's not actually Kevin Durant's fault why the Phoenix Suns suck the way they do. It's because the Phoenix Suns' new owner came in too aggressive, trading away all of your key role players, especially in that Bradley Beal trade, and trading away all your draft picks and capital and everything just to acquire a guy that has not really played to the level that we thought that he could play at. And that's the reality. This Phoenix Suns team is just strictly, they're not built good enough to compete, man. They have 3 elite players, but after that, really, they don't really have much of any surrounding pieces around those guys. When you look at these teams today, man, if you look really at history, okay, I'm gonna say this: when you look throughout the course of NBA history in these last few years, and having so many teams now win NBA championships, different teams now for the last 6-7 years, I think the team that really is kind of very influential in that is the Toronto Raptors. Because before that, we had those super teams with the Warriors and the Cavaliers and LeBron making it to the finals every single year. But that Toronto Raptors team, yes, you can say, oh, they kind of got lucky because Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson got hurt. But that doesn't still change the fact that they had a loaded team, man, at the time. You had Kawhi, you had Danny Green, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby. The list goes on. I can name so many players. Serge Ibaka. They had a loaded team. Pretty much ever since then, that's when we kind of saw duos and all these other teams start changing the narrative of how these teams are constructed and built. every NBA championship team that has won has followed this principle since then. They have all had deep rosters. And the reason why I would say now the Denver Nuggets aren't really back into the finals is simply because of, yes, they've committed to the guys who they committed to as far as contracts, and that has really helped keep them really inflexible with the moves that they can make to acquire good talent like how they want to. Kind of really the cycle for these NBA teams now, man. You find this great talent, you find this great core, you extend them, build around them, but it gets to a point where it can be really inflexible to make the moves and trades and assets that you want because of the contracts that you're possibly stuck with. And that's the same thing for this Phoenix Suns team right now with Kevin Durant, except the fact that they're not winners. And trading for Kevin Durant at this point of his career is a risk that isn't really worth, in my opinion, personally. Yes, it could be a great situation for him and how he wants to close out his NBA career. And hopefully where he does get traded to is a good place for him. But at the end of the day, just know that for these teams that are on the rise, these young teams that have been making big moves and making big strides up in their play over the last few years, is it really worth going out your way and trading for an aging superstar? And this is really no knock on Kevin Durant, because at the end of the day, Kevin Durant is still one of the greatest players to play this game. But like I've said, truly, is it worth it? But I hope you guys enjoyed this brief video today. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more basketball content each and every single week. Have a great day. Peace.